to another video. My name is Kizzy and this is my book channel, so if you want to hear about some books, keep on watching. So today I'm going to be doing my May wrap up. I managed to read about 5.5 books. It started off so well and then literally about midway through the month it just declined a lot. So I managed to read only 2,735 pages, which is less than I did the month before, but that was quite a good reading month for me, so I'm not too hard done by. I did have a lot of assessments and stuff due in at the end of uni, so you know, we win some, we lose some. I read 4 fantasies and 1 contemporary, or 4.5 fantasy books and 1 contemporary books, and let's get started. So the first book I read was Assassin's Blade by Sarah J Maas. So I read the whole Throne of Glass series a long time ago. It was one of the first series that got me into fantasy and kind of YA reading, and back into reading after quite a while of not doing much. And funny enough, I'd never picked this up because, I don't know, just a short story collection. I'd never really felt like I needed to read it, but I'm doing a reread of the whole series, so I did want to read this and I'm glad that I did. We have 5 stories in here and they all happen before the first book happens. So in theory, I suppose if you're going to do it in chronological order, you would read this first. I wouldn't recommend that though. If you haven't read the series, I think all these stories would be spoiled unless you read them after Tower of Dawn, which is the second to last book. The last book I don't think has any impact on the stories that are in here. So once you've read Tower of Dawn, you know everything that's going to come up in here and it's not a spoiler for you. So I would recommend reading it after Tower of Dawn if you're wanting a little bit of a break before you get into the last book, but I don't know if you would do that or not. I think you just carry on and then read this afterwards. I think a lot of people say that you should read this first because it does give you background to Selena, who is the main character, but there's just some relationships between this. I think especially in Tower of Dawn, one of the stories I think is really, when I read Tower of Dawn, how that's revealed throughout the story is really nice, and I really like that part of it. So if I'd read this before, that kind of revelation and reveal would have been spoiled, so that's why I wouldn't do this. But this is just basically 5 short stories about Selena and kind of little things that make her who she is, and just kind of little, it's just an add-on to this series really. So if you enjoy the series, I think you will enjoy this. Obviously it's not as good because short stories, it's hard to kind of convey that as the proper books would, but I enjoyed it. I gave it, let me just check, I gave it 4 stars still, so I still thoroughly enjoyed it. It wasn't a chore to get through, which I thought it might be, because I thought I might just get a bit bored with doing short stories, because I know a lot of people have that I've heard talking about it, but I quite enjoyed it. It's probably a low 4 stars, not gonna lie, but it was still a 4-star read. So then obviously continuing the train, I just wanted to keep reading on Throne of Glass thing. I reread Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas, which is the first book in the Throne of Glass series. But this follows Selena, who, for those who don't know, who is an assassin. She's an assassin, and she's previously, before the start of this book and the end of this book, they cross over that kind of way. She's been captured and put into a coal mine as a slave, and at the start of this book she's taken out of that by the Prince of the Kingdom and asked to play his assassin in this new competition that his father's hosting to find his next assassin. Said assassin 10 times, but there we go. And that's basically it. So she has to do all these trials, and she's kind of living in the palace and kind of getting accommodated to this new life and all the secret goings on that's going on, and the magic thing that's she doesn't know what it is, but it's dodgy. And yeah, it was just nice going back to the start and seeing on reflection how far these characters come. I think obviously this is a 7 book series, so there's a lot of character development, as you would hope in a 7 book series. So just seeing them at the start and how their relationships are at the start, and then kind of knowing how they all turn out at the end, is quite nice. And it was just a nice comfort read, I think, to go back, and I can't wait to continue the series. So that was book number 2. Again, I gave that 4 stars I think this time, not 5 stars. I think I originally named it just because I think the books get better, so I'm waiting to give that 5-star out. The next book I read I did give 5 stars, and I have an actual entire reading vlog for this because I did it in 12 hours as a little challenge, and that was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is the book of the month for me. This is my favourite book that I read this month. I think it's great. I think everyone should read it. I think it's just a very good book. So this follows Evelyn Hugo, who has kind of come up to this reporter, and she's a Hollywood star and she wants to tell her life story to this new reporter. And obviously this reporter's very excited because she's kind of a little bit stuck in where she is at the moment. She's quite a low bit in her like journalistic career. She's not doing very high profile cases and stuff like that, and this will give her the break that she needs. So she sits down with Evelyn, and Evelyn tells her the entire story of her 7 husbands and her life as a Hollywood actress, and it's very good. So it's set mainly obviously in the 60s when Evelyn was the Hollywood actress, and obviously it explores so many different topics like homophobia, sexism, racial identity, and just a lot of things going on there. Because Evelyn Hugo is a bisexual, she's also part Cuban, and she kind of has to deal with how that would be accepted in Hollywood, so she kind of disconnects from that side of her, and it's her kind of coming back to connect with that as well. And obviously there is a lot of homophobic references, and it's quite upsetting. Like, I did cry a lot in this book because of the romance and just the general situation that everything was in. There's also domestic violence in here, so if that's a trigger for you, just be warned. Yeah, it's got a lot packed into these 385 pages. A lot packed in. I would highly recommend. I know it's a booktube favourite, like everyone seems to recommend this, but I think it's worthy of it. I really do. And I read it in like 12 hours, less than 12 hours, so it's a quick one. I think you just get so addicted to it, and it's quite easy to fall in like a trance with this book because it's got that kind of glamorous feel to the Hollywood scene, but it's also kind of disturbing and just it's not right, if that makes sense. Like, there's something off about it, and you just can't stop reading about it, and it's heartbreaking, heartwarming, heartbreaking. It just gets the emotions going, and I think it does a great job at representing bisexuality and the kind of complexities that that brings and all that kind of stuff. So if you're at all interested, would highly recommend. Let me know if you read it, or if you're going to read it, or if you're going to read it after this and then you read it and then you want to tell me your opinion, because I just want to talk about it all day. So that was a 5-star read. Lovely. Next book, I am going to go on to another booktube favourite, but I don't think it's sadly one of my favourites, and that is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. So this is a Russian fantasy. It follows a young girl called Vasya. I think it's Vasya, and she originally starts off, originally the first chapter of the book, she's not even born yet, and then it follows her as she goes up to be like a young adult, and her journey as she battles with preserving the kind of folklore of her town, that her town kind of survives off and thrives off, as a Christian priest comes to the village and tries to destroy that and destroy all the stuff, and it all goes wrong, and there's like a winter prince in there, there's like little gremlin kind of creatures that live in your stove, which is kind of cute. The only other thing that it really reminded me of very much so was Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. That also is based on Russian folklore, I believe, or it definitely has like a wintry Russian feel to it, and it did remind me a lot of that. If you liked Spinning Silver, I would definitely think that you would be enjoying this, or if you're kind of wanting something that's similar but different after you read it, then give this a go. I do think I preferred this one just because the writing style was a little bit easier to get into. The Spinning Silver is written in first person, and I often find that a little bit challenging, especially when it's from multiple points of view, which it was, but this wasn't. This was third person, and it followed mainly Vasya, but obviously as third person does, it kind of has a general point of view as well. And I kind of went in waves of loving this and then really being a bit bored by it, and then loving it again, and then just being like not wanting to pick it up again, and it was just a bit of a whirlwind. I think it's quite slow. It's definitely, people could say it's character driven, which I would say is true, but I often didn't really like the characters, or even I felt like I couldn't connect with the characters for some reason, which is why I think I struggled with it. But I think if you do enjoy the characters, then this would be a really good book for you. So I think it's one you have to give a go and just see if it's one for you or not. I do kind of want to carry on with this series, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to purchase it or pick it up, so I'm not sure about this. I think I gave it 3 stars. Yeah, I gave this one 3 stars, so again, I'm not sure. I'm in the middle. I kind of want to continue it, but I'm not going to rush. Try it and see if it works for you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If it does, it does. But yeah. So the next book and the final book I actually completed this month is the One of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. So this is the second book in the Mistborn trilogy, and again I had a bit of a mixed feeling with this one. I loved the start, and then as it went on it kind of slowed down and I got a bit unenthused by it, and it kind of just dragged on a little bit, and then it got about just after halfway through and then I absolutely powered through it. It was a whirlwind. So there was a live show for the first book in this series, and people on it were saying that you had to keep reading with it. It does get a bit slow and it does get better. So I did power through, and they were right, it definitely did get better. It took me about 5 days to read the first 500 pages or 300, 400 pages, and then it took me 2 days to read the next 400 pages. So it definitely improves. If you've read the first one, I don't know how to talk about a second book without spoiling the first book. So I'll tell you about the first book. So the first book follows Vin and Kelsia, who are living in this world where the Dark Lord has won, and there is a magic system in place where people can consume metals, and different metals give them different types of abilities. But there are 2 or 3 different types of people. There are people that can't consume any metals and get any powers from them. There are Mistings, which can only consume one type of metal and get power from that. And then there are Mistborns that can consume all the types of metals and use them all and get powers from them. There are a number of metals that you can get. It seems ever changing as the story expands, but that's basically the system, and the story that it follows is Finn and Kelsia kind of coming together and trying to overthrow the Dark Lord because they are being suppressed, not themselves as like Mistings, but as poor people called the Scar, and as Scar they want to rebel. So that's what they do in the first book, and then this continues on from that, and it's a little bit different because we follow a different point of view, or there's another point of view put in there, and I think I grew to love him a lot more than I did originally. If you've read it, you'll know, hopefully, maybe, I don't know. The romance, I definitely grew to love it more. It was quite a quick, potentially insta-love romance in the first book that I wasn't really on board with, didn't really get on with, but this became much more believable as it went on, and the romance dude in it, he actually was like a lot of character development, and there was a scene in this that really made me smile. If you know what it is, I'll try and give it away without giving it away. The bit where he gets the sword, that scene, I just really loved it. I don't know why, but I really did. I just thought, yeah, I quite like you now. Yeah, you're good. That just made me smile. So if you know the scene, you know the scene. And yeah, the ending was just, yeah, a lot more dramatic than I thought it was going to be. So I'm very excited to continue, and hopefully it'll all be good. It'll all be good. So just as like a little, because I did read a lot of the pages of this book in this month, I thought I would still include it, half include it, and I'll probably do a proper roundup in next month's vlog, hopefully when I finished it, if that day ever comes. It's currently the 7th of June and I still haven't finished it, but we're going to continue. So this book is The Legacy of Ash by Matthew Ward. It is a tome of a book. It's, well, I say that, but you know, it's 758 pages, which is actually the same as the One of Ascension, even though it's like so much smaller, but I suppose it's actually shorter than that. And you know, I think it just looks way bigger, but there you go. And I read up to page, let me have a look, up to page 449. I started this book on the 19th, I think, or the 20th. So I had 10 days to read this book. And I only read 400 pages in those 10 days, which is not very much. I'm not that much faster, but I'm normally faster than that. So I really thought I'd be able to finish it, but I didn't. And I think the main reason is because I enjoyed the first bit. I think the character startup and kind of the building of all the relationships between all the characters was good. They did that annoying thing where they killed your favourite character off like straight away, which is just frustrating. Won't tell you who that is, but anyway, that was all good. The character build up was good, the kind of world building was good-ish. No, absolutely no info dumping in this book at all, so you do feel like a little bit like you're drowning sometimes and you have no idea what's going on. That might just be me and my lack of knowledge, but who knows, who knows. So you definitely have to find your feet somehow. You ain't giving a hand in it at all, which I found a little bit of a struggle as well. But the main bit that kind of has put me in a little bit of a reading slump as I'm going through this is the big kind of battle scene that's going on, and it's dragging on for so long. I will admit this is totally a subjective opinion. I've just discovered recently that actually I'm not the biggest fan of battle scenes in fantasy novels. So fantasy novels that fake like a largely kind of medieval war type books aren't, I don't think, for me. This is the second book I've read this year that kind of is around that, and it's just not, it's not working for me. So it does have a lot of kind of like strategy and that kind of thing, and I much prefer battles in a fantasy when you've had a lot more time to build up character relationships and it's the characters that I'm more invested in, less so the actual fight scenes and the actual like battles like this quadrant went forward, this quadrant went back, this they fought and they died and that kind of thing. So if characters are at stake and character lives are at stake that I'm actually generally connected to, which normally happens after a lot more of a bigger build up than just 300 pages, I'm a lot more interested in it, so I tend to enjoy them a lot more if they come at the end of a series. Whereas this hasn't quite got there yet. I'm still only on page 456, so I've read about 5 pages this month. I do want to finish it. I do think I will power through, but I am prioritising some other reading at the moment than this book, just to give myself a little bit of a break. So that's all the books and half books that I've read this month. If you've read any of them, let me know. If you haven't, don't know what you want to do about that, but there you go. I hope you had a good reading month too. This was much better at the start, and then obviously the 18th hit and I started this book and it decreased a lot, but what can you do? If you like this video, please give it a like, please subscribe as well if you fancy doing that, and I shall see you in another video very soon.